Hello, my friends. AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. Welcome back to my face and my card making space. And a couple of very easy cards, literally, that anyone can do. We're going to do some heat embossing, very simple stenciling, some more heat embossing, splatter, because of course. And yeah, using some of the newest products from the Simon Says Stamp Sunny Vibes June 2024 release. I'll have a link to that release in the description box below. I will also, of course, have a supply list, linked all the supplies I used. My links are affiliate links. That just means that if you click on one of my links, end up placing an order, I get a little kickback from that at no extra cost to you. So it helps pay the bills and keep the channel going. And yeah, let's get into making these cards. So I'm using this Summer Fruit Tiles 6x8 stamp set from the release. And it's just got this big, large, like background stamp, basically. And there is a die set you can get for this as well. I'll link to it. I didn't use the die set. There's also a few little sentiments and solid images, which you can see there on the screen. So you could skip the stenciling and just stamp with the solid stamps to add color. That would work as well. But I had the stencil and it lends itself to some very quick and easy cards. So I lined up the stamp in my MISTI, and then I took a couple panels of Simon's Smooth White cardstock, because while I've got everything out, why not make more than one? And then, moved the stamp set out of the way so that they weren't sticking to the lid, because, And I used my anti-static powder on the panels of cardstock to prevent the embossing powder from clinging to anything other than the stamped image. And then I'm inking up the stamp and stamping it a couple times with clear embossing ink. I've been talking about this a lot. Images with finer detail, sentiments, etc. I would much rather ink up and stamp multiple times versus, applying too much pressure, doing CPR on your stamps. That's where you're going to lose a lot of the detail quite often. If you find, especially with fine lines, smaller, more detailed sentiments, things like that aren't turning out very well, more often than not, it's because you're applying too much pressure. So lighten up on the pressure. It's better to just ink it up, stamp it multiple times. This is where, a stamp positioner, a MISTI, etc. is just game changer. Helps a ton. And this is all coming from somebody who likes to just, again, reef on their stamps and just press it right down. It's just back off on the pressure. Stamp it a couple times. It's better. You're not wasting a ton of cardstock either, when you mess it up over and over again. Ask me how I know this. So anyhow, I would stamp it with the clear embossing ink, and then I'm using Simon's Detail Gold embossing powder. My container is huge. People ask about this, how many containers of embossing powder in there? More than I need. I do this as a job. I make a lot. I heat emboss a ton, but nobody needs that much embossing powder. There's probably a good 5 containers of gold embossing powder in that container. It happened. Okay. It happened. One container is all you need. It will last you forever for the most part. Even if you use it a ton, a container of embossing powder lasts a long time. But for me, my most used that just happened to multiply, I don't know, maybe they're like rabbits. More containers just kept popping up. So that's why I have these large containers for my most used. All my other ones, I just have a normal 1, maybe 2 containers of embossing powder, Anyway. After I applied the embossing powder, tapped off the excess, melted everything with my heat tool, which with this isn't as exciting on camera, but for me in real life, I will never, I've talked about this a lot, I will never get tired of heat embossing, especially with metallic embossing powders. It is like magic. That was one of the first things, way back when I started stamping a couple years ago, a couple decades ago. It's never lost that magic, as it melts and turns shiny. It just love it. So after everything was smooth and melted, I pulled out one of my grip mats and I'm going to stick both these panels to it. And then I'm going to use the little coordinating stencil. Now something like this, you could use just Post-it tape. Honestly, it would be easy. It wouldn't be as quick. And I've admitted to this. I'm lazy. you know? I wouldn't bother with Post-it tape. Probably not at all. I couldn't be bothered, but the stencil, heck yeah. So I used a variety of light colors of ink and then the stencil and my blending brushes. And that's it. It's just, you just fill it in. I love this. But as I was doing this, I keep looking at the stamp, and as I'm doing this voiceover, and it's like, oh, this would be really fun to watercolor too. I don't know. There's just something about this. I really like this image. So because I'm using multiple colors, I have my cloth there on the side and just a bottle of isopropyl alcohol, a spray bottle, and I spray my stencil. It makes it easy, quick and easy to clean in between colors. I've been talking about this more and more in my videos. My spray alcohol, I only use on my stencils and like my work surface. That's it. I do not use it on my grip mats or my stamps because these are high quality photopolymer. Continued use of alcohol over time to clean them can ruin them. I've had people messaging me about this. It is not recommended by the manufacturers to use alcohol or any like really harsh abrasive cleaners, that sort of a thing. You do not want to wreck either your grip mats, your clear stamps. That would be awful. If you've been using alcohol, I just recommend stopping and then just I use baby wipes to clean my mats and my stamps. And then I use like proper stamp cleaner, and if I need to, I'll even sometimes give them a quick wash in the sink with a gentle soap and some water. Same thing. Do not let your grip mats or your stamps soak in water, anything like that, because it can also wreck them. So hopefully that helps. And yeah, spray a little bottle of spray isopropyl. This is like 70% isopropyl alcohol. I don't think it really matters. And a cloth on the stencils. Works a treat. It's quick. It's easy. I can just clean. Go on to the next color. When I have a ton of stencils to clean, in a different situation, like layering stencils, that I love to use, those I'll usually just take to the sink, rinse with water, sometimes a little bit of soap if it's needed, and then let them air dry, and then go on about my day. But things like this, and especially when I need to clean it now so I can use it now, spray it, wipe it, move on. So I will list all the colors in the supplies, but I used Simon's Pawsitively saturated inks and their blending brushes, and I was using Cheeky, Butter, Celery, Seafoam, and Heather. I just picked just pretty, light pastel colors. That was the mood I was in when I was making this. I was like, those with the gold embossing just gives it a little extra something. And I worked my way around, filling in all the different little sections here. And yeah, this was just, I don't know. It's another one of those things where it's just satisfying. And then of course I had to add splatter because that's just what we do around here. So I'm using my Yasutomo pale gold watercolor. Is that what it's called? I think that's what it's called. I always forget. And another thing, this is satisfying. You add water to it and then you just got to work it up with your brush. I could sit here and do this. I don't know. Just swirl my brush in it all day. I don't know why, especially with just this specific pan. I think it's just the size of it. It's really satisfying. And I don't know. There's something about it when you liquefy it and stir up the brush. Maybe I'm just really weird. I am. I don't care. Anyway. The other thing with this specific metallic watercolor, it does dry fairly matte. It's different than the other ones I have. I like it. It is different though. So to each their own. But I added that splatter and with my fan brush and then set those panels aside, let them dry. And then I decided for my card bases to do them out of Simon's Sea Glass cardstock. So I just cut a sheet of cardstock in half lengthwise, and then I'm scoring it at 5.5 inches. So these will be top folding A2 cards. So 4 1/4 by 5.5. So scored them with my bone folder, reinforced the fold with the side of the bone folder. And then I'd left the stamp in my MISTI. And I'm going to stamp the insides of these cards with that stamp. So I'm going to put my trusty piece of Post-it tape, because I've talked about this. I will reuse the same piece over and over again until it's either oversaturated or, it ends up falling on the floor and I roll over it with my chair and wreck it, because that happens too. But I use it till there's nothing left. So, and then I just keep it stuck to the top of like my die cut machine, just, within reach. And yeah, you guys see me use it over and over again, because why get a fresh piece when it just works? Anyway, inked up the stamp with SEAFOAM ink and then stamp that onto the inside of both of these cards, just like so. And then remove the Post-it tape, stuck it back to my die cut machine because that just works. And then I'm using the CZ Design Bad Day Good Vibes stamp set. I love this stamp set. I love all of Kathy Zilski's stamp sets, like, and her wafer dies. Let's be honest, seriously. So many good sentiments. Always love. So picked out a couple sentiments. I've got some black cardstock here. Same thing. Anti-static powder to keep the embossing powder from sticking where it doesn't belong. And then inking up the stamps with the clear embossing ink. And doing this twice so that I'm not, pressing and ruining the detail, especially those little sub-sentiments. So got those stamped with the clear embossing ink, coated them with the same gold embossing powder, and then gonna melt this with my heat tool. This shows up a little bit better on camera. Again, it's satisfying. Don't overheat your embossing powder either. Just when it's smooth and shiny, melted, move the heat tool away from that area. If you overheat your embossing powder, it will liquefy and start sinking into the cardstock, and then you lose the whole magical benefits of the raised, look of embossing powder. So if you find your embossing powder is looking really weird, there's a good chance that you're just overheating it. So the more you know. So once that was, all of those were heat embossed, I used my cloth again just to wipe off that excess anti-static powder. And then I used little coordinating wafer dies and taped all of these in place so they don't shift when I run this through my die cut machine, so that I can die cut all of these sentiments. And I really liked that a couple of the sub-sentiments, not all of them, but a couple of these sub-sentiments have coordinating wafer dies. The rest, I'm like another couple, I'm going to just stamp on the inside of the card, and then the other ones you could just either use a sentiment label die or, trim it with a paper trimmer. But die cut my sentiments, and then on the insides of the cards, I'm going to stamp a couple more of the little phrases in that stamp set. I'm going to stamp on the inside with Simon's Intense Black ink. Same thing. Ink it up, stamp it, ink it up a second time, stamp it. Because sometimes even on like smoother cardstocks, finer sentiments, or especially in this case, if they're like brand new stamps, they might not, ink up perfectly the first time, stamp perfectly the first time. This is also why I love my stamp positioners, because, can just stamp it more than once. So once all the inside stamping, everything was done, I decided to trim the panels that I stenciled on down to 3 3/4 by 5 inches. So I just used my paper trimmer and took a 1/4 inch off each side. And then I'm going to pop the sentiments into place with some thin foam squares, just to give them a little bit of dimension. You could also, if you have the coordinating wafer dies of whatever sentiments you're using, you could die cut scraps. I've shown that too. You could die cut some scraps and just adhere them all together and skip the foam pieces all together. It just, again, it depends on my mood. Sometimes I just like the look of it kind of floating more. That's why I use the foam squares. Sometimes it's also just laziness because it's less die cutting. It just depends. So pop the sentiments into place. I put some Big Mama foam tape on the back of the panels to, again, just give it that little extra bit of dimension, just not a ton. Got those adhered. And then as my final little bit of embellishment, I'm using Simon's Stay Gold confetti here, just to add a little bit of extra bling, because like I said, that splatter is more matte, so it's subtle, which is okay. I'm okay with subtle, but sometimes you just need to, bump it up a little more. So adhered a little bit of those with some craft tacky glue, just picking them up with my embellishment wand, pressed them into the glue, just let the glue dry, and these cards are complete. It's like I said, simple, easy, and just some good sentiments. I love it. I love Some Days Suck, facts, truth, and it's okay to not be okay, Love that. And then on the inside, making it through today is enough. Sometimes people need to hear that, And same with this one. It says, I'm here for the ups and downs. Just good, solid sentiments, in my opinion. So, like I mentioned in the intro, I'll have links to all the things in the description box below the video for anyone who's interested. Thank you all so very much for taking the time to watch my videos, for thumbs upping and commenting. It helps a ton and I really appreciate it. And subscribe if you haven't. I'd love to have you, and I'll see you all very soon in the next one. Bye.